holding the line for the conservative movement. This is Stacy on the Right on SiriusXM Patriot 125.
Welcome back. You're live and direct with Stacy on the Right here on SiriusXM's Patriot channel. Finally back in my home studio after being snowed in at my daughter's apartment. We went to drop her off at medical school again after the Christmas break and got stranded. We literally couldn't leave her apartment for 2 days because the entire parking lot was covered with over a foot of snow. And so I'm really glad to be back at the regular place in our own home. I'm just getting back and still, rocking and rolling with you here on SiriusXM. Welcoming into the show, James Czerniawski. He's a senior tech and innovation policy analyst at Americans for Prosperity. James, welcome back. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too, Stacy. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad to talk to you. Especially today. I mean, I'm almost feeling like maybe we've won the lottery because for so long it's been like, I don't know, 8, maybe 9 years that I've been getting shut down by the algorithm, having my reach throttled, having people not be able to comment on my Facebook pages, having hidden messages. Hundreds of people have messaged me and their messages have gone to a spam folder that I only just found the other day. Messages going back to 2019. And now Mark Zuckerberg has made this huge announcement that he's eliminated the fact checkers. I thought they'd been reassigned, but he's actually eliminated them. They're no longer contractors for Facebook. It's such a momentous time, isn't it, James?
What a time to be alive, Stacy, right? Who would have thought that in 2025 we would be talking about how Meta was getting rid of its fact-checking program and going in favor of community notes. It kind of goes to show just how crazy but influential and powerful of an idea it was when Elon Musk thought it would be a good idea to buy Twitter just a couple years ago now, right? It's truly incredible. But yeah, that's what Meta announced. They're going to get rid of those fact checkers and they're going to go and shift to a community notes model, which I think is actually quite good. It basically allows for you, the community, to go and actually have a better kind of input and say in terms of the kind of content that you're seeing and being able to call, bull on anything, really. I mean, that was the kind of fun part about having community notes on X, is that like nothing was really, beyond reproach there, right? The White House's Twitter account was having community notes attached to it. So it's kind of nice to go and see Meta kind of recognize the shifting tides here and do away with what was a clearly very flawed program.
I agree. And so it goes to kind of almost a resurgence of Facebook. In fact, could that be a part of it, James, that in addition to acknowledging the new political realities in Washington, D.C., that Mark Zuckerberg might be seeing an opportunity to rekindle the flames with 70 some odd million Americans, many of whom were probably huge avid Facebook users until the clampdown. And maybe he's thinking this could be a way to re-energize his platform as it becomes less popular, especially with younger people.
Yeah, I think that there's certainly going to be a component of that. I don't think that it's hard to go and ignore the fact that people have been displeased with the platforms and the content moderation choices that they've made over the last several years. And part of those decisions have been informed by third-party fact checkers, like the program that Facebook had been utilizing for years on end here, right? But I think even for Mark, too, it's also just like him personally versus where the company was were two different things, right? I think Mark is a lot more libertarian in nature, perhaps, than where the company itself might have been over the last several years. And I think that, couple that with the changing political tides, that Mark, I think, just felt that it was time to go and bring the company back into a more, closer to its roots, right? Because where Facebook was versus where it kind of deviated to were two different beasts. And I think now he's trying to bring it back to basics, if you will, in many respects. And that's a welcome thing to go and see.
I've never been so concerned with how the politics of the person who's selling me a service or providing a service to me in the case of Facebook. I've never been so concerned with it until about 10 years ago when I became aware of Target. And now everybody who provides a service to me, that one of the thoughts that I have initially upon doing business with them is I wonder if they're going to treat me the same way as anyone else because I'm a conservative. I wonder if they know I'm a conservative. I wonder if they're going to find out that I'm a conservative and if that will change the way that they deal with me. So for Mark Zuckerberg, I mean, I applaud this effort, but I feel almost a little like I'm suspecting it. I want to be as happy as possible. I want to dance a jig and have a celebration, but I mean, is this real? Can we trust it? Is this actually going to be great for us?
The company mentioned how they were going to go and retake their trust and safety team that had been based out of Palo Alto, where their company headquarters was, and relocate that into Texas, which I think is actually an interesting kind of decision from the company to try to reflect just how serious they're trying to be about having their company be a little bit more reflective of the diverse nature of the American public that it services with its products, more broadly speaking. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, given just the pure extent that they have really extended out their arm here to the conservative side of the aisle, that over half the country that uses their products and services.
So that's pretty exciting. And so, and I'm with you. I feel like it's such a comfort for me to get to hear you say those words, right? Because we've had lots of conversations over the years, James, about social media, about the proliferation of tech, about the ability of our leadership to make correct decisions, and how social media has weighed in on that. In fact, it's sometimes I feel like our politicians are making decisions based on what the social media giants will do. It's almost had a deleterious effect in some ways. So in addition to eliminating the fact checkers, is there something about resetting the algorithm? I mean, tell us all of the details, things that we might not have missed if we were watching this story play out on CBS or ABC.
Yeah, I mean, again, when it comes down to it, they were going to go and have there were three primary components that they were highlighting. One was eliminating the fact-checking program and going down the favor of that community notes kind of format for flagging posts with content, more broadly speaking. So that's I think a real big positive outcome. The second major thing was the trust and safety team getting moved out of Palo Alto and relocating it into Texas, which I think is, again, another positive step and an interesting decision from Meta, going and showing how far they're trying to go in terms of connecting with the broader electorate that uses their platform, more broadly speaking. And the third thing that they're doing, which to your point at the outset of this conversation that I think is a net positive, is that they had went and turned down the algorithm on political content because people had expressed after 2016 that they were kind of tired with that. But now they're going to go and kind of bring that back, not just to Facebook, but to Instagram and their Twitter competitor Threads. So that kind of content now is going to come and I think re-enter into the discourse on those platforms in a more normal kind of way than it had been in previous years. So that I think is another net positive thing for people to go and connect with content that they actually enjoy to consume more readily than they might have been able to do so previously. So a lot of really good things, I think, for conservative voices that leverage these platforms.
Oh, yeah, it is. And just to be able to make a post and know that a bunch of people that actually like your page will see it. I mean, I'm talking about, just social media 101. You post something, people that like your page see it and react to it. It's it feels groundbreaking.
Going back to basics here.
Getting back to the heart of the matter. I mean, I hate to be so, I don't feel like I'm being melodramatic about it though. This is the reality we've been under, where it's not just throttling, it's censorship. Now, I was concerned, and censorship can mean many things. He said, in his statement where he made the announcement, he said, we feel like there's been too much censorship. And me, my freedom hackles went up and I was like, too much censorship? We shouldn't have any censorship. But maybe what he means is censorship in the way of clamping down on right-leaning ideas, while they do need to actually weed out pornographic content, content that attacks children, live streamed criminal acts to the platform. I mean, they do have some content moderation that needs to be done. Yeah,
and that's the edge case difficulty of operating a $1 trillion social media company, right? Is that in the efforts to go and combat many noble things, whether that's child pornography or child sexual abuse material, the drug trafficking, et cetera, that's the thing that the company wants to go and prioritize on. Those are clearly illegal kinds of activities. They don't want that proliferating on their platform. So that's the focus that they've made an explicit decision in going and pursuing as they're looking forward. But, when it came to the traditional kind of content moderation enforcement, because of their priorities being the way that they had been, it did result in some content getting taken down at a higher rate than others, perhaps. And again, Mark in his address kind of recognized that and owned up to that. He's been one of the CEOs that's, I think, been a little bit more open about and kind of acknowledging the mistakes that Facebook had made in its past, and trying to go and rectify that as we're looking to the future here, which I think is kind of a breath of fresh air. Like sometimes, these company CEOs, their companies do mistakes and whatever, and they try to go and hide it or obscure it. And in this case, it was kind of refreshing and nice to see Mark kind of just own that and try to, put it behind them, acknowledging that was a mistake. And then, what are we doing to go and fix that so that doesn't go and repeat itself in the future, right? So I think that there's a pathway here for Facebook, hopefully going back to being a platform that millions of Americans go and enjoy, quite frankly.
I love it. You mean the village of Facebook returns?
Like I said, we're going back to basics.
I love it. That was my nickname for it back in the day when most of my friends were people that I knew from high school or college. Most of the people posted pictures of their dogs, their lunch, their Friday night out, their kids. The videos were all recitals or, my daughter's jumping on horseback riding lessons, that type of stuff. We did sometimes post politics, but it wasn't really the reason we were there. And back then, Facebook was a lot of fun. And sometimes I do miss those days. So maybe we get a mix of that back.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I get the daily reminders from Facebook memories from like 15 plus years ago now, which is just scary to think that it's been around that long.
Oh, yeah.
But like the kinds of things that I was posting back then, it was very simple. Keep it simple, stupid is what I've been telling my friend lately on other things. But I keep thinking about it in this context right now because it's so true. It's just like I'm looking forward to just people feeling free to go and post again and not have to necessarily worry about some of these other considerations and having the feeling of needing to self-censor because you're worried about, perhaps that negative action that might come against you because you simply shared something on your social media page, right? So again, I do think that these actions from Meta are long overdue, and I'm kind of looking forward to seeing them, implement those changes and looking forward to them actually working with the Trump administration to push back. I know we've talked about it before, but how other governments around the world are trying to force these tech companies to go and censor stuff. The European Union notoriously, through the Digital Services Act, is trying to force Meta to go and censor content, right? So they have a nice opportunity now to go and work with the Trump 2.0 administration to go and push back against the European Union and other countries that would seek to go and have these companies go and censor content.
It's a wild west out there. And on another note, same topic, but, from me to Mark Zuckerberg, because I've been very critical of him at times, especially when there have been data breaches and, we found out that he's harvested information of users and, done different nefarious things with it. He always comes out with an apology afterwards. I understand that he's somewhere on the spectrum, so he doesn't exactly navigate the feelings of others the way you or I might. But he has provided an amazing service to us, a way that to connect with people that otherwise I would have no way of finding someone that I knew in 8th grade without Facebook, right? Even internet searches pale in comparison with the power of being able to type someone's name in and the city you think they live in, or to connect to them because they're friends with someone that you know. It's just an amazing tool. To see him kind of come full circle and return to a libertarian thought and ideology, especially with his business, is very important. But I think he's doing so for multiple reasons, one of which is that you just shared, that he needs to revitalize Facebook. Buying Instagram was important to him. He's done that. He's fully integrated it with Facebook so that later, a subsequent administration can't tell him to sell it off. It's now all one thing. But there's still the idea that young people are looking at other social media platforms and they largely see Facebook as a place for old people. And so he has to get some of those old people back. And I don't consider myself to be an old person, but in social media years, because I like Facebook, I'm in the old person category. And so he needs me to be active on Facebook. And I would be far more active if I could just, find people to interact with if I wasn't hammered down. So this leads us to, James, it's not just, good news tonight. I think it's more good news. You have a ruling on net neutrality, and I don't think Americans really understand how far-reaching this is. Talk to us about this.
Yeah, so the Sixth Circuit came out with a ruling recently, basically shutting down the FCC's rule on net neutrality, which was going to go and treat broadband service providers underneath Title II classifications, which basically would have put them underneath all kinds of onerous regulation requirements for the way that they would go and deploy broadband, right? It would have resulted in slower, deployment for broadband, less investment overall, right? And basically, actually, as a result of the Loper Bright Supreme Court decision, the Sixth Circuit basically said that they were going to go and void this order from the FCC altogether because they did not have the deference to go and make that kind of a determination since Congress did not give them that authorization in statute, right? So that is a big deal. It hopefully goes and puts this silly debate around net neutrality to bed once and for all. I've seen it swing as many times and as many administrations, and I'm looking forward to this just being the end of it once and for all. Let's focus on closing the digital divide. Let's focus on getting Americans connected to the internet so that they can go and find people like you to go and listen to your amazing show. And that's really what I'm excited about when it came to this Sixth Circuit case decision.
Yeah, me too. I got to tell you, I was chatting with Dan Schneider of MRC TV, and, they keep all the stats on all the social media and what's working and what isn't. And he said that they've already seen some of their posts exponentially increase in reach just since the announcement, which was, a couple of days ago? If today's Wednesday, I guess it was Tuesday at 7:02 a.m. So, yeah,
I was going to say that was just yesterday.
Yeah. So apparently they really have taken the clamps off, but I won't believe it until I see it happen on my account, the Stacy on the Right Show page, which has been so throttled back and so censored. I'm looking to see, are the posts having more reach? I'm going to be watching.
Yeah, no, I think that, it's going to be an interesting thing to go and watch how the community also goes and evolves. Honestly, I'm so excited about seeing the community notes format of flagging posts just become more mainstream. It was very fun watching it on X in and of itself, just because again, there was no limitation as to who could get that applied to it. And now just watching it get applied to another platform that has an even bigger, user base than Twitter in many respects. Now they're just keeping it to the United States for now, but I hope that they would go and apply this more broadly across their user base. Since you're talking about there's over 1 billion people that use Facebook across the globe here, right? So again, I'm very excited about what the future that this could mean for the company more broadly speaking.
I am too, but in some ways, isn't it kind of odd, you and I sitting here talking about, Facebook not being as popular with young people, but not as popular is still 1 billion plus users.
It's quite wild, Stacy, right? But, it goes to show how the demographics break down, right? I was actually just talking about this tonight at dinner at an event I'm at where I was explaining to the person at the table, I'm like, look, Facebook has a particular demographic, and that looks radically different than what the TikTok, user base might look like, right? And you want to go and make sure that you're maximizing that exposure here to cater to those audiences because they are, in fact, different kinds of products. And that's good that Meta's kind of come to the realization for what it needs to do for its own community.
Yep, it is. It is. I think they're going to see growth. And that's good, not just for them, but for us. It's a symbiotic relationship. So anything else tech-wise that we need to know about? We're so grateful for your time here in the evening, and I don't know if I said, but Happy New Year to you. Anything else we need to know?
Yeah, I thank you. And again, Happy New Year to you, too. I think that really what it comes down to in 2025 is now that we're in Trump 2.0 and a trifecta of Republican control of the government, let's see what happens. This is the time to build. And AI, I think, is going to be so fun to watch because it's forcing us to have to revisit a bunch of conversations that we otherwise have let kind of just sit and fester on the sidelines, right? Our energy grid is in desperate need of an upgrade, and AI is forcing that conversation to happen in ways that we just did not have to worry about in years past because the energy needs of AI are so immense that it is making our grid go and explode, right? So I think that there's a lot of really positive outcomes that can come out of this next Congress here. And that's the other thing that I would say that people should go and keep their eye on is what is the impact that AI is going to have, not just on the tech industry more broadly speaking, but on all these other industries where that technology is getting leveraged.
Wow, that is such a good point. And then, there isn't any way to do anything about the energy drain that AI presents whenever, it's being utilized. There's no way to minimize that.
No, there certainly is, Stacy, and that's the thing that companies have been iterating on and innovating around. So even when we're looking at how we've innovated on the models themselves, we've made it so that when we're looking at how like ChatGPT is going and doing a query, we've made that more efficient so that it's not draining as much power to go and do those search queries for like what we need as an average user, as opposed to, let's say, what a researcher might need. On the chips side, right? Like NVIDIA has gone and redesigned its chips in order to go and make it more efficient with the power consumption. But at the end of the day, when you're just talking about the sheer amount of data centers that we're putting up, it's just a lot of energy that we're going to need, right? And this is why it's important that we go and build, baby, build, as President Trump would say. Instead of drill, baby, drill, it's build, baby, build. That's what we're going to be doing here. Because, you need to go and see more nuclear energy get brought on board, right? You need to see more LNG, as you were talking about on your previous segment with Greenland, right? I think that it's really just about how do we go and unleash American innovation? It's by unleashing American energy, right? And that's really why I like the AI conversation so much right now, is that, again, it is forcing us to have to come to terms with some of these other policy questions that we've kind of just let sit on the sideline for far too long. So that, I think, is a really, really important thing. And it's something that we should be very excited about, because that's going to open up a lot of opportunities to go and start bringing down costs for the American family if we go and unleash American energy.
So great. Unleashing American energy. I love the way it sounds. I love the way the feeling of that. I just, all I want at this point is to see some good things happening to us as a country, as opposed to, what we've seen in the past, which has been almost a rampant kind of craziness, almost like a mental illness that's been impacting our country. I don't want that anymore. And I know that we can do better than that. And so I'm looking forward to it. James, it is such a pleasure to have you here on the show, and we look forward to talking more, especially as this new paradigm with Facebook shapes up, and we have artificial intelligence, we have the drones, we have legislation that's going to be passed or proposed, I should say. Lots more to discuss in 2025. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Stacy.
Good to talk to you. All right, so let's take our break here. When we get back, we have more Stacy on the Right for you. 866-957-2874, 866-95-PATRIOT to join the show. We'll be right back.